Okay, Jay, if you can respond in a minute.
Yeah, but you're missing the point that at the beginning I said that I wouldn't immediately commit to your understanding of the words co-equal, because in some ways they are equal in terms of power and in terms of nature, but that doesn't mean they're equal in every sense. So that's why I was hesitant to agree to your tricks of terminology there with making it simple and making it easy. That's why I use monarchical Trinitarianism, which again, to use the analogy of a father or a king and his son, the king and the son, the prince, possess the same natures. The king is not more human than the son. And yet, the son still is subject to the father. This is Orthodox Trinitarianism. I'm not a Roman Catholic. So this is our position, which I stated from the very outset in the first 5 minutes, but you just didn't know about that. But when you gave your analogy again of the attributes, you didn't answer the question. You avoided it, you ignored it, and you wanted to switch over into the question of Jesus' knowledge, which is fine. I don't have a problem mentioning the fact that Jesus uses rhetoric and exaggerated language all the time. He says, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. He's not saying literally cut your hand off. He's also not saying that no one is good but the Father. It's rhetoric. So in the same way, he can express that the Father is the sole source of all existence, goodness, knowledge, etc. And yet, at the same time, the other passages also confirm in John 5 and 6 that Jesus has all the same powers, knowledge, and activities as the Father. Everything the Father has been committed to the Son. So you selectively choose the passages. And I want to go back to my question then. How do you know which passages are the correct passages in the Bible and which ones are the corrupted ones when Allah's word cannot be corrupted? And I'm told in 540...
Let's cut it at that. That was well over a minute. Lance, if you could respond to that question. I'll give you 90 seconds.
Right, I'm very happy that, look, he shows that he changes his position. He agreed when I said, is that the Trinity? He shook his head and he said yes. Now he knows that this is going to be problematic, so he admits that they're not equal, and I'm happy. That's it. That's what we're all trying to show.
That's not what, no, you're just confused on the term. That's not what I said.
You're interrupting. Don't interrupt. Shut up. So like you said to me, I'll say the same thing to you. They're not equal. With your own statement, you said that they are not equal. Oh, yes, they are not equal. Exactly. That's what we believe as Muslims. The Father, who you call the Father, is superior to what you call the Son. You give an analogy of king and son. Exactly. The king commands the Son, is superior to the Son. It's not equal to him. So I
in nature, you're lying. I said in nature.
You're interrupting again. You're interrupting again. Thank you. Please don't interrupt. When it comes to rhetoric and not rhetoric, they run away from anything which is clear. For example, I'll bring him now, John 17:3, where Jesus says explicitly there is no true God. The only true God is the Father. He says the only true God, addressing the Father, is the only true God. And he doesn't, which means that any other deity is false. We have all over the Bible Jesus making statements that can be appear divine. I can say it's rhetoric as well. Anyone can say rhetoric. Okay, whatever verse you're going to bring up is also rhetoric. And we play this game, whichever verse you don't like, we just call it rhetoric. So the game with playing with these things that don't agree with you is you try to escape the position and the fact that Jesus was subordinate, submissive. So you had people arguing it in the Council of Nicaea and other councils because they believed that he was subordinate. They didn't believe he was equal. You had tons of heresies due to that because the Trinity makes no logical sense. Now you lied, by the way, and you said there's a verse in John that says that they have the same power, they have the same knowledge, they have the same wisdom, or whatever it is. Go ahead and read that verse for us exactly what it says. Now you said in the Quran, I'm responding to what you said, the Quran, which verses are corrupted, which verses are not. Whoever agrees with the Quran, we believe that is therefore accepted and true. Whoever disagrees, we reject. Whoever doesn't agree or disagree, we are agnostic about it. That is the Islamic position given by the Prophet and the Quran. Now, where is
Jay,
the verse
I'll cut you off there. Jay, I'll give you 90 seconds to respond.
Yeah, this guy's playing games because he knows that nobody interprets any text as if every single phrase or idea that is expressed is in that single text. The Trinity is a doctrine that's derived from all the texts of the Scriptures, not from this or that verse. And so he's setting up a false criteria for me to use the exact terminology in any single verse. Jesus says in John 16:15 that everything that the Father has been given to the Son. That means all of his existence, all of his powers, all of his attributes, the Son also shares. I answered his question when he asked, wait a minute, you said they're co-equal. Yeah, co-equal in nature, hence the example of the Father and the Son being distinct persons, same in nature, equal in nature. Equal in nature means that equal in the power that proceeds from that nature. So yes, throughout the Gospel of John, every chapter, every chapter in the book of John includes a reference to the deity of Christ and or a reference to the triad. No, Goofus, that doesn't mean the word Trinity is in the book. It means the concept, the teaching of the Trinity is in the book, just like it's throughout the Old Testament, not the words. It doesn't have to have the words. That's your criteria that you made up for me. Now, I asked you a specific question about you going to the text and the prior revelation and what your criteria was, you ignored it. You didn't answer it. I want to know, what is your criteria for knowing when in the Old Testament it's true and when it's false? Is it not the Quran, the very thing in question?
90 seconds for Lantern.
All right. So clearly he said it is not from a part of the text, is derived from everything. It is not. He's essentially saying it's not clear, which is what we love to hear. Is that the doctrine of the Trinity is not clear in the Bible? That's why I said I can present many quotes from church fathers in which they disagree with one another on what they believe the Son was and the Father was. You had all of these councils, you had all of these disagreements, heretical people who were killed because the idea of the Trinity is not there. I never asked him for the word. He like tried to straw man as if I asked him where's the word Trinity. I never said that. I said the concept. That's why I started by defining. He didn't answer John 17:3 because he knows it's a thorn in his side. When I said Jesus said the only true God is the Father, he did not respond to that at all. He completely ignored it. I responded to his question about the verses. Which verses? I said to you, whoever agrees with Islam generally, the Quran and Hadith, we will accept that this statement is true. So when it says in Deuteronomy 6:4 that there's one God, we accept that it's true, no problem. Anything which would disagree, we will reject. Like if something says Jesus died, we could say that is false, it's corrupted, that is change. Now already biblical scholars agree that the Bible has been corrupted. I don't need to do a lot of research regarding that. Now, when you said God's word doesn't change, that verse you quoted is talking about Allah's promise, and you're quoting it out of context. Like I say, I don't change my word; I keep my word. We're talking about promises. We're not talking about the revelation of the previous scriptures, because the Quran already explains the revelation of the previous scriptures has been changed. Now, you said whatever the Father has been given to me. That's clearly not the case, because Jesus did not know, and he said he didn't know, and he said only the Father knew. And what he means by that is not talking about attributes.
Perfect. Jade, 90 seconds.
Yeah, notice he did not answer the exact challenge I gave him. I asked him what the epistemic criteria was, and he said that the Quran backs up the promises of prior revelation when it's with the Quran. So in other words, the Quran proves the Quran by citing the Quran passages in the Old Testament. And yet we read in the Quran that it actually says that you can go to the prior revelation to see that the new revelation is consistent with it. We have revealed to you, O prophet, the book of truth, confirmation in the previous scriptures, and a supreme authority upon them. So you judge between them what Allah has revealed. And now he's admitting, what was his source? Many scholars say the Bible's corrupted. Oh, really? So many scholars who are atheist unbelieving is what you go to, not to your prophet Muhammad, who said that you can go to the prior Jewish Torah scriptures and Christian scriptures. Those scriptures confirm, supposedly, what's in the Quran. You just said, no, they're all corrupt. So Allah and Muhammad are directing me to go to a corrupt book to prove your book. You don't see how silly that is. And then when I asked you for a standard, you said the standard is the Quran. But the thing in question is the Quran. So you're in a circle. A circle. And it's a fallacy to appeal to authorities to say, we all know the Bible is corrupted. That's a fallacy. I know you guys don't know what fallacies are. They're haram in Islam. Logical fallacy.
10 seconds.
Right? Logic is haram. So what's the standard again?
Okay, 90 seconds for Muslim Lantern.
He said I didn't give him a criteria. I clearly did. I said who agrees with the Quran and Hadith. It is we accept it. Whoever disagrees, we reject it. He said Quran proves the Quran. Nobody here is talking about proving the Quran. Nobody's also talking about the Quran proving the Bible. You're just misunderstanding things here, and you're just conflating terms, and you're just going around in circle. Nobody's talking about anything proving anything. I already explained to you what the word confirm there means. You clearly don't understand what you're saying. There's nothing there that says that is proving it. The verse you did is refuting. You mentioned is refuting. I was laughing. How could you read this verse? I think it's supporting you. The chapter 5 of the Quran, verse 48, which you were reading, is refuting you. It is literally saying, so judge between them with the Quran, with what Allah has revealed to you, and do not listen to their desires. And the next verse says the same thing. And you read yourself for it is a supreme authority over it, which means that whatever the Quran dictates is a supreme authority over the Bible. That's exactly what I've been saying all this time. And I'm laughing. How could you read that verse and think that it's supporting you? Now, this is just it's completely ridiculous. So now, the Quran says it's also corrupted. It's mentioned in multiple parts. For example, the Quran says in chapter 2, verse 75, and mentioned in chapter 2, verse 79, how they write the scripture with their own hand and they claim it is from God. You said logic is haram. Nobody said anything about logic is haram. Again, coming back to 17, chapter John 17, verse 3, where it explicitly says the only true. Again, you're avoiding the question. You're running away from the question. Also, we have in John chapter 20, verse 17, it says he has a God. He says, I'm going back to my God and your God. So how can you be God and you have a God? He didn't say, I have a person, I have a father. He said, Father and God. So he has a God above him, and he believes the only true God is the Father, and he doesn't have the knowledge of the hour. And this is what we mean by him not being equal to the Father.
Okay, Jay, 90 seconds. And then after this, I'll go Jay, then Lance for 90 seconds each, and then we could do closing statements, finishing with Muslim Lantern because Jay Dyer started. So let's go 90 seconds, Jay, now.
Yeah, the argument in both of those passages is not judge the prior revelation on the Quran. The argument is that you can go, again, to 285. The messenger believes in what has been revealed to him is from his Lord, as so do all the believers, his angels, and his books. The books that are referenced in many other passages as well. This includes 6:115, 18:27. These are the words of Allah previously in the Torah and the Injil. They cannot be corrupted and changed. He believes they're corrupted and changed. Why? Because atheist scholars said so. And guess what? The same atheist scholars don't believe in his books and his Quran. They all the time reject. So it's a double standard. They always do this. They have a double standard of citing the atheist scholars who reject the Bible, but also reject the Quran. And your Quran does say many times over that I can go and check the previous revelation to be consistent. And then when we find out that it's not consistent, you say, oh, that's because it's corrupted. So I'm supposed to look at a corrupted thing to confirm in a non-corrupted thing. That makes no sense. That's why when I said, what's the epistemic criteria to know the Quran is true? He said, the Quran. That's a circle. You explicitly affirmed the very thing I wanted you to affirm, that it is a circle. You said, no one wants to know, no one's asking what's true. I'm asking, how do we know it's true? What do you mean no one's asking this question? I'm asking you this question for the third time. How do we know it's true? And in regard to John 17:3, I said monarchical Trinitarianism. Jesus does submit to the Father. That doesn't mean he has a different nature than the Father any more than a son submitting to a father means he has a different nature.